Hey everyone, Hannah here, coming at you with another video, this time about my own personal investing for the month of September. Now I say my own personal, but I definitely would include Sage on here as well. We both put together a lot of effort to invest as much as we do, and I thought this would be a good way to share that with all of you and kind of do a once a month check-in to see what stocks I have bought, all the balances of all of our different accounts, and just see how close we are towards specific goals in our budget as well, such as buying that house. So for the month of September, I will have to say that it was definitely an odd month. I mean, I was just finally starting to get used to working my new job and working my old job at the same time and getting into that rhythm of working quite a bit. But at the same time, we were moving every single weekend and trying to get the apartment as clean as we could. And due to all the expenses that come up from moving, we weren't able to save a ton of money this month, but we were still able to put a little bit aside towards the goals that we feel like are important to us. So first up, I would love to talk about my monthly acquisitions in my Robinhood portfolio. I invested quite a bit over this month. I invested $160 into Tesla, $210 into VTI, an index fund that I absolutely love, $55 into Yeti, $140 into Apple, $65 into Hillenbrand, and $80 into Rocket Mortgage. Now those were the purchases that I made on my individual account on Robinhood. So with all of these purchases and the capital gains that I have gotten over the last month, it has brought our Robinhood balance up to $2,867.59. As the year finishes up and comes to a close, I hope to be buying more ETFs, so that way my portfolio is a little bit more diversified and a little bit more stable. So I will probably be buying a lot more VTI, SPHD, and ARK. So moving on to my M1 Finance Roth IRA. This is under my name, as we have not managed to start one yet for Sage, but I know we're going to get there soon. I really love investing on M1 Finance because it allows me to split up my money into plenty of different companies to be able to see exactly how much percentage-wise is going to be in each company and reallocate whenever necessary. I find that it's a great way to keep consistent with your finances and to be able to make sure that you are investing exactly the amount of money you want to invest into certain companies. With the additional deposits of around $200 this month, it brings our account up to $1,304.48. Now moving on to a couple different 401ks. Now, both my old employer that I'm still working at part-time and my new employer that I'm working at full-time both offer 401ks. Since I am so concerned myself with maxing out our Roth IRAs first, since I do not personally believe our income will be drastically different a few years down the road than it is today, I decided to not put as much towards these 401k accounts, but I am still putting a fairly generous amount, or at least what I believe to be. So 11% of my income that is earned at both jobs is going towards their respective 401k accounts. So each one is kept at a separate institution and are actually put into completely different funds. So it'll be kind of interesting to see how they stack up against each other. Although obviously the one at my new employer will have a much larger balance, since it will be 11% of a much higher amount of income than the income at my part-time job. So the 401k at my old employer has been brought up to $14.28 and 84 cents. Now as for the new 401k at my new job, I haven't been working there that long, so there hasn't been that big of a long-standing deposit history. There's only been a couple paychecks that have gone through there since the pay is bi-weekly at that job. But I have still managed to accrue a decent little amount of money inside that 401k account. As it stands right now, including employer contributions and my own personal contributions, this account is at $359.75. So that brings the total balance of all of our investment accounts to $5,960.57. I feel like we have done extremely well in just the short amount of time that we have made such a priority to go towards our investments, that I feel like we really will be able to achieve quite a bit as the years come by. So I think we have done really great, and the fact that we have $6,000 almost in our investment accounts just blows me away. Up until 2 years ago, before I met Sage, I was somebody who would never have more than $1,000 in their bank account, and that would only be because of tax day. So it feels awesome to have all of these investment accounts and to be able to add them up and say, wow, I have a substantial amount of money here. And I think it's a great start towards our financial freedom and our financial future. Now I'm going to be switching over to the computer and going over my budget with you guys a little bit. So let's switch over to that now. Hey everyone, back on over here at the computer in YNAB. I just figured I would do a quick little update on here every month in order to show how our budget is looking every single month and show the progress that we're making. I think it's really good that I'm starting on this month because there's not a ton of progress, but we can see how some of the categories are smaller, but how they'll be built up in a few months. So our top section here is what we call the untouchable bills, which has everything from like car payment, car insurance, internet, and then all of our subscriptions, Apple Care, those kind of things. So these are the 100% necessaries, and actually this was an old moving category that we don't need anymore, so we can hide that. And then directly underneath that are our credit card payments that we try to keep up to date, so that way as soon as we do a transaction with the credit card, it goes onto YNAB and it automatically moves the money into this fund. So like on the Discover card we have $84.57 due, so that way when we pay it we have the exact amount of money sitting there, so that way you don't have to worry about it. That's one of the beautiful things I love about YNAB, is that it allows you to see everything all at once, and you're able to know that you are saving money for everything and you can't forget about, oh, this $15 on this one credit card. Then underneath credit card payments we have what we call the untouchable goals. So this is where I have our reserve and buffer categories. Now the difference between both of these is the reserve is what I use for everyday transactions throughout the week that we just didn't quite budget correctly for, if we're $5 over on groceries or a couple of dollars over on something else. And the buffer is something that I try to build up to somewhere around $100 or ideally more in the future. That gives a little bit of extra wiggle room in case, somebody has a sick day and they don't get as much money on their paycheck or something like that. It helps to fill in a little bit extra into the inflow from somewhere that we've just had kind of money sitting. And that, of course, also helps with the Age of Money days as well. We only have a little bit towards our wedding here, and if we click on it, we can see that we need to budget another $99.97 this month in order to get up to where we need to be. But I am very confident that we will be on the right track with the wedding, since we have some other parts of our yearly spending that we are trying to make sure we get done before the holidays. But I think it's not a bad start to it, and this is where also I hold our investment accounts. So basically I do track the accounts, and I'll get into that on a different day, but I just basically treat them as a separate line on the budget, and then I budget out the exact amount of money, and then I put that exact amount of money into the account on the brokerage, and then when the transaction goes through, I take it out of the money that's left there. Then going into monthly variable bills, we have things like the grocery store, farmer's market, and things like that. And I feel like we've done really well in this category for this month. We've even been able to put a ton of money towards gifts, so we've already got $110 towards the holiday season, which always feels nice because it gives you a little bit more freedom if you see something at the store and you want to make sure that you can get it for somebody. If you already have that money sitting there, there's nothing stopping you from buying the perfect gift when you happen to see it, and not doing it the week of, which is really nice because that's usually my style. And then looking into true expenses, which I'm thinking about moving higher up on the budget because it is more of a priority than some of the other things that are higher than it. This is where we put all our things like license renewals, our YNAB subscription, switching over our tires into our winter tires every year. That's been a primary fund here, is making sure that we have enough to pay off our tire switchover, and then also getting slush funds made up for these different categories for the car. So even though I'm pretty sure we're not going to need brakes when we go get our tires changed, it will be nice to have some of the money there, so in case I do actually need to get the brakes for it, we have some money already available. And then obviously a nice slush fund for auto repair would be nice, just so that way if there's something completely unexpected. But I do feel like I've done a really good job on here breaking down everything for our auto maintenance to ensure that we don't forget about anything, even as far as the inspection or the registration or oil change. Next up we have our wish farm. This is how we save for various things that we want to get, but we feel silly about putting a certain amount of money into every week. And if it's on the farm, we feel a little bit better about it. And so initially we had some of these other smaller wishes a little bit funded, but we decided to drain most of those and then fully fund this wish for Sage, which was a linen dress off of Etsy. So this final section here is in all caps, but I want it. We use this for anything that we feel like is a little splurge worthy, but that we still want to be able to maintain to have a little bit of money in. And we try to ensure that we don't put in too much money into this category every month. The exception obviously being that $800 piece of art that you can see coming out right there. But this is where we plan for things like coffee, because Sage really loves to get coffee from the local coffee shop in town. My energy drinks, so that way I don't get crazy at work and I have a nice amount of caffeine to get through the day, or eating out budget, things like that. Beer, any vaping supplies, anything like that, tattoos. So this is where really everything fun goes, and as much fun as it is to do a lot of these things, we find ourselves not spending a lot of money in these categories because we end up just wanting to invest that money or save it towards something else instead. And we have our savings categories, and these are actually out of our savings account on our bank account. So we have our emergency fund, which is everything besides just $50, which is going towards the house down payment. And like I said, even though it's not a lot of money, it does feel good to have something towards that house down payment and to let us know that we're doing the right thing with the crazy way that we're saving money on rent right now, and that we are still working towards our goals. And even though I know $1,400 isn't that crazy of an emergency fund to cover it, with our bills being so little here, that actually would cover a pretty long span of time for us. So that feels pretty good to have that built up as well. So yeah, that's basically the annual update for October for the budget. So that will do it for this month's investing and budgeting update. I really hope you all enjoyed this new style of video, and if you have any suggestions about how I can tweak this format to make it a little bit more entertaining in the future, please let me know in the comment section below, as well as your own stories about where you are at financially and where you are moving towards your goals. As always, if you thoroughly enjoyed the video, please be sure to give it a like and share it on social media, as that allows my video to share to so many more people than it would have otherwise. It was so great talking to you all, and I cannot wait to talk to you again soon.